My grandmother was a Presbyterian pastor, and she cussed. Be advised. Hey y'all, I'm Jenn. I'm from Oakland, and I'm an androgynous, black, lesbian feminist, and a lover of all black people.
This is Daren. I'm an asexual novelist, researcher, and bona fide comic book fanatic from the widest part of Southern California.
Orange County. We're queer millennials with 3 kids and nearly 20 years of marriage.
This is a podcast about the realities of blackness, adulting, and relationships.
This is That Black Couple. Hello again.
Hello.
Did you expect to see me here in our basement where we record the podcast regularly?
Yeah.
That's whack.
We did plan it. We did say, let's write some notes about what we're going to talk about, and then let's come down to the basement. I set it up. I checked the sound to make sure the sound was good. I did some test recording, and then, we got all set up, and then we said, okay, you ready? And then I said,
so you just expected me now.
So then I was
So
thinking,
you just expect me now. You don't, so you're not surprised? I'm not a gift?
The thrill is gone.
Oh, really? Okay. What has it been? Let me count the years. 22 years of relationship and 18 years of marriage, and now you want to say the thrill is gone.
I'm just not surprised.
Y'all see how niggas do you?
It's season 7. Come on now.
Do y'all see how niggas do you?
Honestly, though, I think they might be surprised because it's we've had some valleys,
peaks and valleys.
Definitely. Some
what
peaks.
I will say is our valleys have not been as bad. I still remember that year where they got 2 episodes.
Yeah, and we came
for
back,
the entire year.
Back.
There was a year where there was only 2 episodes. If you go back and look at our little log of episodes, it's one season where you look at them dates and you're like, wait a minute, are these 8 months apart?
But
yes, they are.
That just tells you all you got to do is keep going.
Just stick with it.
Don't quit.
Don't quit. And then also hire someone named Mayo who will get your shits together and help you build a podcast calendar.
And look at you like,
please get that podcast done. Hey, I need y'all to get y'all's life together. The podcast studio's in your house. You have no excuse. You're right. Yeah. You're right. Here we are. And this is episode 5.
Episode 5
of season 7. We are halfway through the season.
Look at that.
Amazing.
We're doing it.
We are talking today about ancestor appreciation. I'm excited about that.
I'm really excited about this. And I feel like this is kind of like an unexpected episode.
Why?
Like, we haven't done an episode like this. We've talked about religion before.
That's true.
But never specifically and focus on ancestry.
That's true. Ancestor Appreciation Day is September 27th. So we're honoring that for my birthday month. And I don't care if it's Libra season now. The point is that September belongs to Virgos.
Yes.
Okay. So this is episode 5 of season 7 of That Black Couple. I am drinking, everybody knows, peppermint tea.
Yes.
With probiotics. Because I'm 40 now. And I can't play these games. I can't drink sugar with everything now.
It's a war and it's a fight every day.
Every day. All my life, I had to fight. I said that in Dungeons and Dragons the other day, and it was hilarious. My character said it.
Your character said it?
Yeah, so my character is an ancient elf. They're 333 years old, and they're like gold. So they're gold. The whole thing is gold. But they're very, very black, and they pray in gangster rap, and they make chants that are quotes from Color Purple. So I have this one attack with my elf that is called the boomerang, and it's when I send out a radiant light beam out and I can kill you with it. And when I do it, I do the silly fingers and I say, everything you done to me already goes and done to you. And then the boomerang comes out.
This is dumb as hell.
and yeah, so This is why I play Dungeons and Dragons with black people, because I can't do that with white people. They wouldn't understand the references.
They would not understand.
My characters are all very black, and my argument is that gangster rap, those people are prophets, and they're just using the spirit of discernment to tap into our ancient African proverbic ways.
You know, this is so on target for this episode.
Thank you. I'm bringing it back.
You brought it.
I'm bringing it back. My elfin wisdom in the game is tapping into an ancient ancestral wisdom. And that wisdom sings gator boots with the pimped out Gucci suits to cast spells of faith. Because what is more faithful than to say, I ain't got no cash. I ain't got no cash.
But I stay fly.
Listen,
if that ain't faith.
That's faith. Thank you.
Something to believe in.
Sorry. Have a seat. This is That Black Couple. I'm Jenn.
I'm Daren.
Before we get started, make sure you follow us on Instagram at That BLK Couple, on Facebook at That Black Couple, and look us up on the internets at www.thatblackcouple.com.
And you can stream our episodes everywhere. All 7 seasons of them. You can find them everywhere where podcasts are streamed.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, I'm straight. Let's do it. Let's get to it.
I mean, we already started. We're talking about Ancestor Appreciation Day. This came up for me the other day when I was in Chicago at the Through the Portal conference that I attended. It was hosted by the incomparable Dr. Barbara Ransby. I was able to witness conversations with Representative Cori Bush. Ilhan Omar was there as well. Rashida Tlaib was there. It was pretty dope. Angela Davis was incredible as always. But one of my favorite panels was a panel on spirituality and religion. And they had a person of Muslim faith, a person of Jewish faith, and a Christian there. And it was interesting because they were not talking about organized religion per se. They were talking about what it means for our movements to have a baseline of spirituality, to be anchored in this idea that we are tethered to something and simultaneously tethered to all of us at the same time, that we are anchored to one another, that we have some type of investment and connection to the people of the world and also the land itself. And it was really nice, I think, to hear them say that, because that's what I believe. And I think having grown up in a very conservative Christian community, and not conservative in terms of the ideological spectrum, but conservative in terms of we believe in the Bible and that's what we believe in. We might not follow that shit, but you know, we pretend like we do. So we know how to shame people for it if they don't. Mm-hmm. And we know how to be real ashamed when we out here cheating and doing all other type of shit, right? Mm-hmm. We still drug dealers, but I can quote you a verse, right? So anyway, moving on. So I think it was refreshing to be in a room full of people for whom that resonated, that we can have these different faith origins, these different faith stories, right? My faith story is a Christian story. That's how I was raised. So my feelings of joy and fulfillment in terms of worship come from like gospel music, right? But I also have read the Quran and found it very meaningful. I've also studied Buddhism and found it very meaningful, right? So for me, I think it was really, really affirming to be thinking about myself from a perspective of what it means to understand myself as tethered to the land and also then tethered to my ancestors, right? They were very clear to say, you know, your ancestors are holding you. Your ancestors are still here with you. And I absolutely believe that. That's why I can't be atheist, because the atheist perspective is that ain't nothing there, right? We ain't nothing out there, right? And I just don't understand that. Scientifically, I don't understand it, because energy doesn't dissipate, it just transforms.
Right.
But also I don't understand it because I can feel them. I can feel my ancestors, you know?
And I think that's, you know, that's really beautiful, number one. And I would say when it comes to religion, kind of really right along those lines, as I've gotten older, I've questioned religion a lot, right? Because as you said, you know, especially like you, I grew up Christian. And so there's like these like kind of bedrock beliefs of like of what Christianity stands for, right? Like Christianity is about love. And I remember coming to church and it was always like, come as you are. Like, so, you know, if you're coming to church, it no matter what you look like, as long as you're coming to church, right? There's all these like platitudes that we kind of say, you know, what certain religions stand for or are about. And I always struggled when those things didn't actually materialize in real life. Right. And so a lot of the questions I had was like, okay, well, why am I a part of this religion? Like, what am I doing this for? Like, what's the point? Right? How is it making me feel? Right? If I'm practicing this religion and it's making me feel terrible, or there's teachings that I disagree with, right? Like, how do I reconcile those things? And then what do I do when when this religion that I'm supposed to be part of isn't living up to what it says it is, right? Like, how do I reconcile that? How do I move forward with that? How do I reconcile that with what my belief system is versus what a religion is, right? And I think those are all really important things. And kind of like what you're talking about, one of the things that really came up for me is like, what do I know to be real? What do I know for certain is true, right? And I do have ancestors. They did walk on this earth. They did live lives. They had an impact on what other people's lives ended up being. Like, it was because of what they did that I am now able to walk the earth. They loved me and they cared for me, whether they knew me for 5 seconds or for 50 years, right? Those things are real. Those things are also very tangible, right? And that to me is a really great place to start when you think about spirituality, is what you know for certain to be true, and kind of build your belief system out of that. And like you're saying, being tethered to ancestors, being tethered to the earth, you know, finding out who you are and what's important to you. That to me is what a belief system is grounded in.
I agree.
This podcast is supported by generous donations from our patrons and listeners. Become a supporter today by heading to www.patreon.com/othercombosmedia.
You can stream the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. When you listen, please consider hitting that heart button, sharing, giving us a 5-star rating, and leaving some dope comments. This helps us with our page rankings and gets more listeners for the show. Thank you so much.
We are back.
Okay.
And it is time for the conversation.
Let's do it.
And as usual, I'm excited because I have some stats, some facts, and some figures to discuss. And so what we're going to talk about is, you know, as we're talking about religion and we're talking about ancestors, right? How can you be religious outside of like some organized body, right? And I want to give some context to the conversation. As usual, I did some research, and there have been some recent studies that actually shed a light on how people are feeling around these concepts. The Public Religion Research Institute recently did a study, and they found that 26% of Americans now identify as religiously unaffiliated. That's a number that has been growing, and it is also now the largest single religious group in the U.S.
I love that a religious group is now a non-religious group. Like, I love that the largest group is not evangelicals, but people who ain't in nothing.
People that don't have a religion.
Ooh, is that us? Are we in there?
I would say yes. I would say that we are in that category.
Yeah. High five.
Because remember, when we're talking about religion, that is an organized body. We're not talking about beliefs.
Right.
Right. These are people that are just not affiliated with a specific religion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a Methodist. I'm not a Protestant. I'm not
I
a
ain't
Catholic.
none of that shit.
Right. I might believe in God, but I'm not in any of those churches. Right. That's the biggest religion right now.
Wow.
Right. When you think about that number, remember 26% of Americans, 35% of those people are former Catholics. 35% of those people are former mainline Protestants, and about 16% were former evangelicals.
I need more evangelicals to come about. I need more evangelicals.
It makes sense though, and I'm gonna talk about some more numbers, and it's gonna show how it makes sense.
Okay,
but it's, you know, honestly, when you think about that, right, it's telling you where those people are coming from, where they're leaving, and also where they're staying. And also on the flip side of that, right, when you think about what we call religious churn, which is people that are giving up their religion, there's much lower religious churn around Black Protestants and Jews.
I'm not surprised.
Black Protestants and Jews, right?
I'm not surprised.
And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because, you know, Black people raised in the church, they They stick with church.
It's not popular to leave the church.
It's also a cultural aspect.
Yeah.
Right. So even I remember being in church, and there's a lot of people that weren't believers, but they were like, yeah, but it's the church. This is where we meet. This is where we hang out.
That's right.
I eat donuts. They do the fish fry on Friday.
Chicken. Yeah.
You know, like it's also a cultural
chicken
aspect.
and spaghetti. That's the church meal of the year.
Yep.
I mean, I also think, to your point, I think, you know, in Black communities, it's a family. And when they say it's a family, they mean that. Mm-hmm. You'll often be going to church with your grandma and your auntie and your mom and her coworkers. And when you're the person that left the church, you become a black sheep in the family, especially if you're gay. Yep. Listen, especially if you're gay, like, or if you have a baby out of wedlock, or you, whatever, anything that they can identify as the reason why you in sin. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. But listen, 2/3 of the people who leave a faith tradition say that they did it because they just stopped believing in the religious teachings.
Damn, not 2/3, child.
2/3 of people said, I just don't believe what they say no more. And that's exactly what I was saying, where it's like, you profess to be one thing,
but you're not doing it.
It's not lining up. And I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Right? 47% of respondents who left cited negative teaching about the treatment of LGBTQ people.
That's me.
If that's not a big sign as to how the world is changing.
Yeah.
Hispanic Americans are more likely to say that they've left a religion over LGBTQ issues, which to me I found to be interesting. Right?
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, younger people.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But Hispanic people, I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either. I thought it would be Black people, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think, like you said, it's kind of a family thing.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is something I have seen anecdotally, where a lot of people in the Hispanic community they do have like a split around these things.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of Hispanics traditionally are very religious, but you know, when you are mistreated, or the people that you love and care for are being mistreated or not cared for by your religion, a lot of times it causes a break. And I think that's kind of where that number is coming from.
Yeah.
Other reasons that people leave, clergy sexual abuse.
Which to me should be a number one reason. I'm surprised that so many people stayed in the Catholic tradition after that. I mean, we were young when those stories started coming up. And they're thought,
still coming up.
I thought, oh, the Catholic Church is done for.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen that way. And I honestly am still shocked by that. I am.
The other big reason that people leave, where'd it go? Oh, the other big reason that people leave is over involvement in politics. How
interesting.
Which I love when data tells the story for you.
I know, right?
It's the best.
I know, it's giving evangelicals. I'm sorry.
That's why I love research.
Churches have always been political. That's one of their main.
They've always been, but specifically when they're saying over involvement of like, you have now overstepped. Like, this is a church. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a religious body. We're supposed to be here for, you know, spiritual reasons.
I also wonder what that is, because I really wonder what that also is, because I think about when we've tried to join churches and people will, because sometimes you want them to speak on cultural issues, things that are happening in the world, because it's kind of weird that they won't.
Right.
And I remember we were going to a church and we were like, this is weird, because there's stuff happening, like Michael Brown happened, and like they weren't saying anything. Mm-hmm. And that was odd. You know what I'm saying? And I think in some instances, people don't want them to say anything at all. But in others, I think sometimes, you know, it's people of color who are like, I need you to speak up, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's white folks who really don't want folks in the church to be political, because they can have a clear separation between their church life and their political life.
Yeah.
But for so many of us at the margins of identity, outside of whiteness and cisness and hetness and middle classness, right? Like, our church life actually is political.
Yeah.
Having time to be at church on a Thursday night when I just got off of work and I could be taking more hours at the local hospital, that's political. Mm-hmm. I mean, and
if you're not standing with me, then why am I standing with you?
Exactly.
Right. And that's why, and this is another interesting stat, 1/3 of religiously unaffiliated Americans say they no longer identify with their childhood religion, because that religion was bad for their mental health.
Oh.
And that response is strongest among LGBTQ respondents.
Oh, I hate that. It's true.
I hate it, but it's so true.
It's so true, and that's also me.
But that's the thing. Like we're saying, like how do you go to some place of worship where the actual religion that you're a part of is speaking against part of who you are as a person.
Yeah,
that's bad. That's a straightforward thing that's bad for mental health.
Yeah, I mean, it also creates this weird cognitive dissonance because they're telling you come as you are and we love you for who you are. All the songs say just as who you are, and meanwhile you're gay, and they're like, but except that, if that's the truth, then you're dead to us. It's like, wait a minute, how are those two things compatible? Somebody please explain. Like, I will admit, like, growing up in the church was very confusing for me because they loved me. Like, they really, really loved me, but I realized it wasn't me that they loved. They loved the person I was performing,
right?
Because I learned the rules. I learned the etiquette. I learned the guidelines. I read the syllabus. I did my homework on how to be a nice, perfect little Christian girl, and that just wasn't who I was.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to talk about, bringing it kind of back to the political again, right? 31% of respondents believe in kind of like, it's like the prosperity ministry concept, where they say God always rewards those who have good faith with good health, financial success, and fulfilling personal relationships.
Yeah.
And the people that are more likely to agree with that would be Black Americans.
Huh.
When you think about the political divide, people are more likely to be in that group if they're Republicans.
That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense, and to me, it really talks about the splits and schisms that we're seeing in America.
Yeah,
where I think a lot of Black people kind of have tied themselves to religions.
Yeah,
as quite frankly a coping mechanism for a world
that's fucked up. That's how we're socialized,
right? And so it's this belief: if I'm good, if I wear a big church hat,
that's right.
If no one can see anything below my chin,
yeah, and
they can't see my ankles. if I smile, if I'm a Ursher and I do that Ursher step the right way, if whatever religious thing it is, if I do that, then that will earn me right treatment. That'll earn me rewards.
I have another angle on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think my angle is it gives. Yes, man, it's a good boss.
Yeah.
It gives the way we were socialized on plantations, because religion was introduced to us in the Americas as a work of pacification, right? Mm-hmm. These religions that center a white savior, if only you will lay prostrate and confess your sins, is a savior that requires that you essentially admit that you are dirty, you are sinful. Yeah. And Black folks in the U.S. have been conditioned with that narrative. Who are we conditioned by? Wealthy white folk, the people who would identify as Republican. So to me, it's a very clear relationship that wealthier white Republicans subscribe to that theory because they are privileged and they haven't had to work for their intergenerational wealth. They got it off of the backs of slaves, the same slaves who they convinced that if they would just lay prostrate and yes, massa, Mr. Boss, yes, sir, if they just keep doing that, then they would get there too.
And then on the flip side of that, it's the belief that if you don't just bow down to the church, if you are not just completely devout and fully in the pocket of the church, you will then get the punishment. Right. It's that belief where we need to have separatism. Right. It's the belief that we're the good ones and you're the bad ones. Right. And so you get the bad stuff and I'm going to get the good things.
Yeah.
Whether or not that actually really shows up in real life or not, it's that belief that is implanted in people's heads.
Right. And that's absolutely the same logics that tell Black people that every single thing that they do will reflect on every single Black person ever. Right. This is the logic that says that if any one Black person acts like an actual human being, then it means that all of us are failures, deviants, and criminals. Right. Like, we don't get to make one mistake. No one says boys will be boys of young Black boys. They adultify Black children, right? These are the same stigmas that so many Black folks feel the need to live up to. And one of the institutions where we see it most prevalent is in the Black church.
Yep. And that to me is what leads us back to, honoring ancestral and ancestral linkages, right? Because our ancestors have been through these struggles.
That's right.
They've been there already. And I also do have that same belief, just like you do, that they are still here and they're still guiding us and they're still pushing us and they are holding us and they are still present in our lives.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes our focus on being the best snowflake Negro keeps us from hearing their voices.
That part.
It dampens our ability to listen. It dampens our ability to see and to feel and to get back in touch with the land and get back in touch with our people and with one another. It puts us in bad relationship to the universe, and we have to get back to ourselves.
And remember, these are the type of things that religion will speak against. These types of bonds and
we're
connections.
Gonna get there.
That's what it speaks against.
Absolutely. Listen, the number of times I was told that stuff was secular or of the devil, even now we'll see memes and stuff where people will say yoga is demonic.
Yoga is demonic?
Yoga is demonic.
Exercise is demonic?
It's because you're making positions and stuff, and then, it comes from an exotic place. So, there might be some devil worship in there. So you gotta watch out for that downward dog.
Yeah, don't stretch your ass.
Don't be in that. Don't be in that the cat cow.
You can find my mom and dad, aka That Black Couple, on the web at thatblackcouple.com. That Black Couple is owned and operated by Color Combos Media. If you would like to help fund our content, sign up at www.patreon.com/colorcombosmedia. Please consider giving us $5 or $10 per month to help us build our platform and grow our organization. You can also give one-time donations at www.paypal.me/colorcombosmedia. All donations are welcome.
We are back.
We are.
Okay, let's talk about these ancestors, because I think it's really exciting. I think that, I can honestly say, as somebody who grew up very Christian, I went to Bible competitions, and it was very important to me to win them, and I did. I won them year after year after year. At 13, my biggest hope was to win the summer Bible competition. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I competed against like 14, 16, 17-year-olds, and I whooped their asses. And it was so meaningful to me to know where every book in the Bible was and how to find the verses the fastest. And I whooped their asses. Anyway, so that's how Christian I was. Okay? I have read the Bible cover to cover multiple times, like it was a book.
It is a book, but...
Like it was a chapter book. Like I was reading a book for school.
Yeah.
I did this at 11. I was like, ooh, the revelation. How many heads he got? I called my grandmama and said, do you see how many heads is in this Bible? She said, oh, child, I done told you. Okay. I still have a favorite Bible story. The burning bush will always be my favorite story. Okay. Ruth, the whole book is lit. Why you laughing? Job popping too.
Ruth is lit, y'all.
Job is popping too. Listen, don't sleep on Job.
Job done went through some trials.
People
y'all.
always talk about Proverbs, but really it's Job and Ruth. Anyway, my point is very Christian, okay? But you can't get me in no church now. You can't get me in no church. I can't deal with it. But when I am in communion with my ancestors, like it is a really beautiful thing. Like I have these altars in the house now. The people who helped me build them ain't in my life no more because they was actually demonic themselves. But, I figured out how to get my altars together. I have a beautiful, wonderful Aquarius friend now who every new moon we check in with one another about our altar cleaning processes, our altar refreshing. You know what I'm saying? Like I have close relationships with my ancestors now. I check in with them. I say hello to them. I greet them, and I cannot emphasize enough how great it has been to acknowledge the part of me that I felt like for so long I was kind of ignoring. I could feel them calling out to me. I could feel them reaching out to me. I would be in places like Puerto Rico. I went in 2020 and I always say I can feel when the ground moves beneath me. I had only ever felt that in DC, but I also feel it in Puerto Rico, Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, well, what is that? What is that? And the more I dug into it, I realized, oh, it's my ancestors. It's my ancestors. And I think that, when we talk about ancestor appreciation, people always think, oh, I'm supposed to start thinking about like these stars, like the Toni Morrisons and all those folks, and appreciate them and call their names. People don't think about the ancestors we don't know, right? Like, I don't know what ancestors came through DC on their way to me, right? I don't know who came through Puerto Rico, right? I don't know who is under that soil. I don't know what that soil's relationship is to my body, right? But I'm really keen on making sure I pay attention to it now, right? And I ask my ancestors when I'm here at the altar, I ask them, like, what is the connection? I journal about it. I ponder on it. I think about it, you know? And I think that for so many of us who grew up in the church, we were taught that those things were evil. Those things were demonic. Those things were secular. Those things were of the world. But maybe they are of the world. And so the fuck are we, right? Like, we're in this world. Our ancestors are a part of this world. We are all matter. We are atoms. We are dust, you know? The Bible tells us we are nothing but dust. And that we will return to this earth, you know? So I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now. But my whole point is that, you know, I appreciate this episode because it's not just to criticize the church. It's to say that clearly so many of us are searching for ourselves. These people who are leaving the church are leaving out of disappointment. Yeah. And often out of heartbreak and betrayal and feeling that they were sold a bill of goods. Yeah. And that means that we're still searching, right? We're still trying to get back to ourselves. And I'm happy to think that the focus on our ancestors is helping us get there.
And the thing about that too, about people leaving the church, I want to say it again. When people leave a religion, it's not necessarily because they don't believe in the teachings or they don't believe in whatever that religion is about. It's really, as we saw from the stats, it's more often because of the people. It's more often because of the actual religious body, the physical form, structure, organization, institution on this earth that is doing things that they don't agree with, or even worse, doesn't really line up with what the religion professes, right? And that to me is like the ultimate letdown, especially when you're in a religion from a young age and you're brought up and you're taught all these things and you believe it, and then at some point you look around and you're like, you were my Sunday school teacher and you taught me X, but you over here doing it, and then the pastor was preaching last Sunday about blank, and now he cussing someone out
and sleeping with their wife.
You know, and it's a biggest letdown. And I think the biggest tragedy of that is for people if they were to lose what they believed in over something like that. But I think what's so encouraging is seeing these figures about young people and how they're leaving religions and just being unaffiliated and, you know, seeking out that belonging and seeking out that sense of self in other ways is really, I think, affirming and exciting to see that people are not putting their definition of who they are and what they're about and what they believe in the hands of other people. They're taking charge of that and making it about them, right? When we look at these religions, you know, to me, they're just not modernizing. They're not keeping up with the world itself. And that's why you look at Catholicism and how people are just, you know, leaving. And that's I think the biggest religion that's losing members, right? Because it's just not keeping up with what people face in the everyday. And to me, like I said at the start of this episode, like, when you're a part of a religion, you have to ask yourself, what is this for? Why am I here? Why am I a part of this? Why am I, you know, putting money in? Why am I spending time? Why am I spending energy? What is the point of this? And if you're in a religion and you're like, this isn't doing what it needs to do, right? I'm glad that people are having the gumption to go after it and figure out what that is for themselves, whether that is just being religiously unaffiliated and just kind of doing their own thing, whether it means they are now, you know, coming up with a new religion that they're going to be a part of, whether it's just, you know, getting in touch with their ancestors or, you know, spending time with nature, whatever it is that is giving them the sense of self that they need. To me, that is what religion is about. It's help defining who you are and also who you want to be. And if you can get that in some other way, whether it be from the ancestors or from something else, I'm all for it.
I agree. And I also think that you tapped into something really important. I didn't think about modernizing before this conversation. I didn't think about the fact that, you know, when people tell me what's happening in these churches, these Catholic churches, I'd be like, they doing what?
Nuts.
You know, and the fact of the matter is that these religions, you know, are archaic. They are formed by old men in eras when they didn't even conceive of a world that we live in today.
Yep.
And young people are tired of trying to conform and fit into boxes that are uncomfortable. And I'm really excited for the fact that young people have so much more courage than generations before them and before us. I feel like a lot of us took some time to get courage, but these kids don't care. They just won't do it. They said no. If it's not right for them, they won't do it. And I really genuinely hope that a lot of them are leaning toward finding connections with their ancestors. I do think we have more work to do there. I think that, especially as Black folk, that has not been something that we've been educated on. And we haven't, unfortunately, had the tethers to our ancestors because the intentionality behind slavery has been to untether us from one another. So we have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
As always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, or you just want to tell us how great we are, email us at thatblkcouple@gmail.com. Bye.